pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Don't know if the student reps are here or if they're studying for finals.
They were planning on joining, but they may not be. So.
Okay. Well, maybe we can go on to public comment, and if they come late and they'd like to add after that, that would be great. Is that okay, Megan?
That's great.
Okay. All right. Or anytime, I guess we need to approve a lot of minutes to former meetings first. We can approve these in bulk. So I will just ask if there are any corrections or additions to any of the meetings listed: December 15th, January 5th, January 6th, January 14th, and January 15th. Any correction to those notes or minutes? Yes, Nicole.
So I don't know if I just am not familiar with taking attendance on these meetings when people are coming and going. So it might be correct, but you might need to revise who is absent and present in the January 6th and January 15th meetings, because
The way it works is it originally starts with whoever is in attendance at the time that the meeting starts. And then as people come and go, I kind of make notations in the discussion section, and you may see that Jane Doe arrived at 7:15. This one left at 7:30. And as I make those corrections, the attendance record will update as to who is present and who is absent. So if a vote is, you'll see a lot of different people coming, changes in the attendance. So if a vote is taken at any particular point, when somebody has gone, the count will go down. So you could see that a motion may be passed with 7 yeas and 0 nays. And then the next time a vote is taken, it could say 5 yeas and 0 nays. That's because it accounts for who is present and who is not.
Okay.
So the tracking is there. It is just a little bit hard to follow sometimes.
Okay. I was thinking that might have been the case because I know there were meetings and a lot of people were coming and going, but
yes,
I did notice that the absent present at the top
it changed a lot. Yes, it did. And if you actually opened up board books, you would see who was here at what particular time. And my notes indicate that in the minutes.
Okay. Thank you. That was it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. That doesn't sound like a change or an addition or a correction.
An explanation.
It's an explanation, exactly. So if there aren't any changes or corrections, is there a motion to approve those minutes as presented and listed?
Yes, I move that the minutes of the meetings were is the red language? Oh, possible motion. Move that the minutes of the meetings were presented for review. There being no corrections, the minutes are approved as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thanks, Nicole. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right, those are approved. On to public comment. I will read the preamble as we always do. The board welcomes the opportunity to hear from members of the public about matters concerning the Weston Public Schools. Public comment is an important chance for the board to receive input and feedback. We listen attentively to all comments. While we value and pay close attention to public comment, it is our practice not to respond substantively or sometimes at all during public comment. There are several reasons. First, engaging in a discussion on a non-agenda item could violate the board's obligations to comply with the Freedom of Information Act. Second, the board or the administration may not be prepared to discuss certain matters raised in the first instance by a public comment. Third, the board develops its agenda carefully to ensure that the board addresses the matters that are pressing or relevant at the time of the meeting. We also encourage members of the public with specific questions or concerns or complaints about our schools to reach out directly to Superintendent Forty. You may also email the board at our email address, boardofeducation@westonps.org. Additional details regarding public comment are available on our website. Jody, do we have anyone interested in making a public comment?
We do not have anybody in the attendee room for public comment at this time.
Okay. All right.
I can let you also know that one of my Board of Ed reps just popped on. So if
Great.
you'd like to take this opportunity to go back and have Izzy give you an update,
Absolutely.
you may do so.
Yes. Hard for me to see. Izzy, yes.
Hi,
Hi, thank
Um,
you.
thanks for having me.
Of
Happy
course.
January. So we just finished up our midterms at Weston High School. The PTO did a very lovely gift bag fundraiser where students got snacks, like little stress balls, Weston merch. It was very cute. And then during the midterm break, they gave out hot chocolate, and it was really nice to see everyone gathering in the lobby. And we had a lot of really great efforts from the teachers who stayed late for flex time during for extra help sessions during those midterm review days. It was a real effort from the whole school that we got to see, and it was great. Secondly, we're looking forward to our second ever school-wide talent show, which is coming up in February. We have our first round of auditions kind of pre-review process, which is happening in the next few weeks. And we're very excited to see where that goes. That's all I've got for you guys today.
Well, thank you. That talent show sounds like a lot of fun. And congratulations to you and the whole student body for making it through midterms. And I'm glad you pointed out the support from the teachers, of course, which is crucial, and the PTO, who are always available to make life a little less stressful. So thank you.
And
All
we
right,
still do
any
not
other
have
questions?
anybody there for public comment, so you can move on to
Okay,
the
all right.
next.
Izzy, we'll let you go then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whole business. All right, the Weston Board of Education policies, regulations, and bylaws. There are a list under second review. There's a motion for their approval unless there are corrections or comments. Do board members have any corrections, comments, questions, suggestions? Okay, I have one. I would like to take bylaw 9321 off of this list for approval tonight. It's regarding the time, place, and notification of meetings. I would just like to hold off on that. The language there speaks to one meeting a month, and I would like to perhaps engage in a board discussion about how we like that format and whether we might want to consider any other schedule. So again, I'm not trying to push a particular idea, but I would like to at least talk about it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to pull that off the list of approval for tonight and then go with the rest of them for approval if the board members are interested.
Just out of curiosity, does it specify in that policy a singular meeting, or does it just talk about notification of meetings?
It says generally there will be one meeting a month.
Okay, all right. So we can discuss that then. So I'm happy pulling that, and we can. Would you like us to discuss in committee, or do you want to discuss?
Yeah, that would be great to talk
Okay.
about it in committee, and I can send you an email and you guys can discuss it there.
Okay, I'd be happy to.
Yeah. Or we can talk at the board table, whichever you prefer, not tonight. Okay.
That's fine.
All right, so can there be a motion reflecting that language of accepting or not approving, holding off on bylaw 9321?
Does anyone have the motion language? Lisa, do you have motion language in front of you? No? Let me see.
No. My computer wouldn't bring it up.
Would you
Okay.
like me to read it for you and then somebody could?
I can do it.
So moved. That's great.
Okay, so move that the policies and or regulations were presented for review, There being no corrections, the documents were approved as presented with the exception of policy 9321.
Is
So I
there
need
a
a second.
second?
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, those are approved. Okay.
Second.
New business. All right, this is a request that we reschedule the February 23rd Board of Education meeting, the regular meeting that comes at the third week of the month usually. And I would like to reschedule that to February 2nd. The reason is that February 2nd had been a date for a special meeting to hear the SLAM report, phase 2. They will not be ready then, but they hope to be ready later in the month. So I'd like to reserve the 23rd, and hopefully that will become our special meeting for the SLAM report. But in the meantime, reschedule the February 23rd regular meeting and make it February 2nd. So that's all we're doing tonight, is we're rescheduling the February 23rd meeting to February 2nd. That's our regular Board of Education meeting. Is there a motion to do that?
Can I just clarify, so currently there will be no meeting on February 23rd.
I would like you to hold the date.
Okay.
We're hopeful that that will be the SLAM presentation, but I need we have a confirmation, but I need to double confirm that before we announce it publicly.
Okay.
Okay. I make a motion to reschedule the February 23rd meeting to February 2nd.
Is there
I
a
sec-
second?
I second.
Nicole, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Can I just point out that in the bricks and mortar update that went out to the parents last week, it did say that the next EOC meeting or facilities meeting would be on February 2nd. So in order to avoid confusion, it might be helpful if in an end of week email or newsletter, there's just some kind of correction that that's going to be a regular meeting rather than the facilities meeting.
Yeah, and hopefully by then, by the time we can make that correction, we would also get that double confirmation that we have the date for the SLAM presentation. I would like that to be its own agenda, its own meeting. So.
But
Okay.
can I ask a question on that then?
Sure.
Due to the fact that the next regular Board of Education meeting is only going to be happening in 2 weeks, a lot of committees won't have the opportunity to meet prior to our next Board of Ed meeting. That makes sense. And so, for example, we won't be able to have the policy discussions prior to
Right.
the next meeting. So
Right.
if there's anything emergent, can we add it to the agenda of the facilities meeting at the end of the month? If there's anything emergent that needs to be approved by the board prior to.
Yeah,
we keep
anything that
the
has a deadline,
flexibility?
of course. Yeah,
Okay.
anything that has a deadline, we could do that. And I'm not trying to change the schedule for any committee meetings, just proceed as normal.
Mhm.
And, if there will not be anything to report February 2nd, perfectly understandable. We'll just continue.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if anything does need to go through that, rather than having to wait until the normal scheduled time for the next regular meeting, because right now we're looking to go February 2nd for a regular meeting, and then not until the third week of March for the regular meeting, right? So there'd be a long span. So if need be, the 23rd of February at the special meeting, if we need to have any regular business in there, we can make sure it's in the agenda, correct?
Yes, we can. We can.
Okay, all right.
But
that's
I
it.
just want to also remember that the SLAM report will still be the star of
Sure.
the show. Okay.
It's only something that can't wait until the.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's got deadline.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, consent agenda. Okay, we can vote on all the items, but I just would like to take a moment and thank the Weston Education Foundation for the donation for an assembly speaker, Harlan Cohen, that was described in the forums. Sounds like great for the high school students to hear early and in slightly different formats, depending on your grade level, about post-secondary planning. And also the Weston Education Foundation made another great donation to the middle school for a Windows and Voices author series that consists of speakers and also texts. So thank you to the Weston Education Foundation. And then, of course, we wouldn't have an evening that didn't go by with PTO donations. And this month, it's from Hess, PTO donations for a binding machine and also for classroom storage and charging station. And those of us who have looked at the budget realize we have a very tight budget on materials and supplies. And so donations such as these are great enhancements. So thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, on to Weston Board of Education policies, regulations, and bylaws. The list here are for first review, and some of them are for review only, and I will leave that to Sharon and policy committee members and Superintendent Forty to take us through that. Anything you want to highlight or explain or ask us about?
I don't think that, did everybody have an opportunity to read through them? I guess that's the first thing. And they came out of committee. I can't recall, Erica, anything in particular that was a real sticking point. But if anybody has any questions, we're here and happy to answer.
Sharon, I think we did have a couple of questions on the student discipline policy, and Tracy had an opportunity to follow up on those questions. One was related to language around beepers.
That's right. Sorry, I did. We may have to define what a beeper is since they won't know what a beeper is, but go ahead.
Yes. And the second one is escaping me, but Tracy's going to remind me because it just fleeted my brain.
Sure. So why don't I, hi, everybody. Why don't I start with the beepers, pagers clause of this policy? We agree that that is outdated. I think it's paragraph 30, or item 30. That will be removed from the policy. We don't need any reference to those technology devices because they really don't exist anymore. And the other one was toward the beginning of the policy. It was on page 5 of the actual policy, paragraphs 2A, 1 and 2. And there was mention of, quote, publicized policy of the board. And there was some question about why that language was needed since we make our policies available on the district website. And the answer that I got back about that is that that's the language in the Connecticut law related to this. So it is recommended that we keep the policy language consistent and include that verbiage. And what the other part of this that was explained to me is there could potentially be an occasion where some sort of legal or statutory requirement is updated. And you know that we have to go through multiple reads of a policy. So it is possible that the policy won't yet be publicized, but could potentially need to be referenced for the purpose of student discipline. So we are being advised to keep that language. I know there was some concern about it not feeling incredibly transparent, but those were the reasons that were given.
Okay. That's why we had asked specifically about getting the feedback. So thank you for doing that, Tracy.
Sure.
Is there anything else? Just those two things, right? The beepers and the public.
Yeah, those were the questions about the policy. We had as we shared with the committee, a very extensive conversation and time to review for the building administrators. And then we spent a fair amount of time on this in the committee. So
Yeah.
in that, I think we were set.
Okay. Are there any questions from any of the board members about any of these policies
So
or regulations?
can I just ask, just based on the way the discipline policy looks, is this just based off of Shipman's model policy?
Yes.
I had just a suggestion.
Mhm.
On policy 1220, citizens advisory committees. It talks about the board establishing them, the board going over annually the goals, etc. I would also suggest maybe adding a line about timeline, because I can imagine there are some advisory committees that could like stop. You know what I mean? Like they could be ad hoc for a year
Mhm.
versus like a constant standing thing. So I'm
Where's,
just wondering.
what page are you on right now? So I can make sure that
I don't remember the page, but it's not that long a
I think it's
policy.
page 87.
Okay, let me get down there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I thought that
It's
there was
just-
language in there that talked about
I didn't
dissolving.
see one about, the sort of the dismantling of them or the, reviewing whether you need them every year, depending on what the committee was about.
So Citizens Advisory Committee.
Sharon, I'm thinking of what you're thinking, where it said they could be dissolved, but that might have been in a policy
Prior.
we recently reviewed. I don't think it was this one. I'm not sure.
All right.
But
Well, it's just a suggestion. Just take a look, and if the language is there, then don't worry about me. But if it's not there, think about it.
There was a couple of these policies and regulations were duplicated. It seemed a regulation that was almost a duplicate of a policy, but with a little bit of verbiage change.
Okay.
And I'm
So
trying to
maybe it
think.
was in the regulation.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
look at
think.
that as closely. I just looked at the policy.
Yeah. This was quite a lengthy discussion. Let me see. All right, I'm not finding it right now. But you know what, we can always, if you'd like, if we're unable to find what Eric and I seem to be remembering, but can't quite locate,
Okay.
then perhaps
Yeah,
it's
and I
best-
obviously could have missed it, so it's just a question.
The regulation is on page 145, if that's what you're looking for.
I just got to it. Okay, it says, so organization and dissolution, the board shall seek the advice of the superintendent before establishing or dissolving any advisory committee. Specific topics for study or well-defined areas of activity shall be assigned, writing committee. Da-da-da-da. So upon completing its assignment, each committee either shall be given new problems or shall be dissolved promptly, but shall not be allowed to continue for prolonged periods without a definite assignment. The
Okay.
committee, so does that cover? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, as
language?
long as, I should have read the regulation. I didn't, so my
That's
fault.
okay. Well, again, it's on page 145, so
I
that says
stopped at
something there.
144.
Oh, darn it all.
I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
I'm like, the fact that I actually remembered that, I'm shocked, especially in
You
my
are
current,
amazing.
day after IU game day. But yeah, all right. I think so. I
Okay.
think we are covered there.
All right, then we're fine. All right, thanks for pointing that out.
And thanks, Jody, for helping me locate that.
Okay. So all of that said, now can there be a motion to approve the consent agenda? No, I'm sorry.
No.
These are just first review.
Yeah,
Never
those
mind.
are all just first reads for you. The
Yeah,
only thing
sorry,
is
I
that
forgot first review.
Yeah.
Sorry.
you have
Okay.
several that are for review, but no action needed. So we will only be changing the date on those to acknowledge the fact that they were brought before the board for review.
Okay.
And
no
are still
action
current.
needed.
Yeah.
there was one additional question on the defibrillators in subcommittee, and we did collect some additional information specific to that. The high school has 5. The middle school has 3. WIS has 3. Hurlbut has 5. The Board of Ed Annex has 1 on the on the main hallway in the left side. So I just wanted to bring that information forward. There was a question about how many we had in district. Some of those are located outside, and when the temperatures drop, they are brought inside and will be replaced when the temperature gets a little warmer in the spring.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, any other comments on the review portion? All right, so we will see this next agenda to approve, at least the first bit, not the second. Okay, that leads us to operating and capital budget discussion. Superintendent Forty, did you want to lead that?
Sure, thank you very much. At our last meeting, we had made it through question 40, which was the last section regarding enrollment, classroom sections, and teaming. And so tonight we enter a new section of the questions that were submitted by the Board of Education, starting with question 41. And I am going to turn it over to Julie because this section is focused on staffing. So we are going to be answering all the Board of Education's questions relative to staffing. Julie?
Good evening, everyone. I am going to lead us through the responses to these questions, but I am going to call on some others to help support with those responses. And we do, as we did in the last meeting, have some supporting charts and other visuals, which Dr. Henkel is pulling up right now. So the first question related to staffing is actually a pairing of questions that we put together. Deb, I believe you directed the questions, and they're related to considerations for the makeup of our staff. The question is, what considerations are made when determining if a staff member will be 10 or 12 months, full or part-time, hired as a staff member, or hired as an outside contractor? And a second question asking, are efficiencies gained by hiring versus contracting out electrical, carpentry, plumbing, and general mechanical services? So I'm going to address the first question broadly and then speak more specifically to that second question. So if we can advance to the first visual. All teachers, paraeducators, nurses, and security specialists have a defined work year of 10 months. And depending on their bargaining unit, that might be 182 or 187 days in the work year. That defined work year, that 10-month year, encompasses the entirety of the school year. When new positions outside of those groups are created, the primary job responsibilities and the timelines that are associated with those responsibilities are considered in determining the defined work year. And we do have three sort of groupings of work years for our staff: 10 months, 11 months, and 12 months. The nature of certain district business is year-round, which would prompt consideration for a 12-month work year, while other roles may not require responsibilities during the summer weeks. The visual that you see is a breakdown of our current staff to illustrate sort of where the bulk of the work exists. So you can see the 10-month group, which represents 82% of our current staff. As I said, previously includes teachers, paraeducators, nurses, and security staff. The 12-month group, which is the next largest group, includes administrators, custodians, maintenance and grounds personnel, and certain clerical roles. And that is 15% of our total staff. And finally, the 11-month group, which is a very small portion of our staff, includes our registrars and the remaining administrative assistants, totaling 3% of the overall staff. So you can see the bulk of our staff is really focused on that 10-month work year to encompass the in-session days of the school year. Decision-making regarding full-time versus part-time status is based on assessed needs and also operational efficiency. So when speaking about certified staff, where fractional full-time equivalencies or FTEs exist in this projected certified staffing, we look to create efficiencies where we can by combining assignments, obviously provided that staff hold the appropriate qualifications and actually can be shared amongst assignments, practically speaking. As a result, some of our full-time certified staff members work in multiple buildings or hold multiple assignments within a single school. When fractional FTEs can't be combined in a way that's educationally sound or operationally feasible, part-time positions may result. Non-certified positions are typically designed to focus on specific student support or operational tasks, and decisions about whether those roles will be full or part-time are based on the scope, frequency, and timing of those tasks. So when our needs are limited to certain hours of the day or really discrete tasks, part-time positions may be appropriate. But I will note that across the board, we generally exercise great caution in creating part-time positions because in our experience, they can be challenging to fill. And also they tend to have higher rates of attrition, particularly when they are less than half-time positions. Regarding hiring versus contracting, our preference is always to hire our own staff because maintaining our own staff supports continuity and quality of service. It promotes accountability to our district leadership, to board policy, and to state and federal requirements. And it fosters ownership of our district goals and vision. In addition, a consistent staffing contributes to a positive school climate because students and staff members build trust with adults who are part of the school community and who have the ability to respond as needs arise. Finally, our own in-house staffing offers more predictable and transparent budgeting than contracted services can, because the cost of contracted services can often include overhead and profit margins that we may not be able to anticipate. Work roles that are currently filled by outside contractors in the district include our bus drivers, our cafeteria kitchen staff, the night cleaning staff, and very limited positions in the pupil services department. We also contract with maintenance workers on a limited basis when there is a project that requires really highly specialized training that is beyond the expertise of our existing staff. And you note in your question that our existing staff includes a licensed plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, and a general mechanic. And I'll conclude by saying that we find, anecdotally at least, that maintaining an in-house maintenance staff really allows for faster and more consistent follow-up and response when issues arise. The next question is about the number of administrators, and I am going to pass it over to Erica for her response.
Thank you, Julie. Deb, you had a question regarding staffing, and you said questions often arise around the number of administrators. The pie chart, and I think you're referring to my budget presentation, was helpful in the budget presentation showing that Weston's portion is not out of line with state average. Could the percentage numbers be added to the slide? Is it possible to get a similar comparison with our DIRG towns? If administrative staff was reduced, could you describe the impact to service and functions? So I'm going to start with the last part of the question regarding the reduction of administrative staff and how that would impact service and function. So when you reduce administrative staff, it basically just results in the redistribution of work to the remaining administrators. So responsibilities that are related to state and federal compliance and reporting or instructional oversight, day-to-day operations, and coordination across and amongst departments are shifted to the remaining administrators, which then, as a result, increases their workload and stretches their capacity throughout the day. If you're thinking at the district level, if we reduced administrative personnel at the district level, the redistribution of the job responsibilities and roles would weaken oversight of things like curriculum and instruction, student services, human resources, and other mandated functions, which would make it really difficult to ensure consistency, compliance, and effective planning, breaking down really good systems and structures that are in place at the district level. If we're thinking about the reduction of administrators at the building level, principals and assistant principals and assistant directors would be pulled further into operational, managerial, and compliance-related tasks, limiting the time and focus that they can dictate to instructional leadership, staff supervision and evaluation, building their school culture and climate, and their direct focus on building effective student supports. So over time, leadership becomes more reactive and less proactive and strategic. The coordination and coherence between schools and the district gets really fragmented. There's some risk for some compliance issues and state reporting, and the district's overall ability to sustain and deepen initiatives that are aligned with our district improvement efforts result in compromising student outcomes and performance. So that's just a little bit about the impact to service and function if administrators would be reduced. And again, the work doesn't go away, so it would be redistributed amongst the remaining administrators. And so now, Tina, if you don't mind pulling up the pie chart. Deb, to your question regarding the pie chart percentages with the DERG comparison, what I'm going to show you is a little portion of a chart that I think Julie will go more in depth. But the top chart in this slide, these are your pie chart percentages with the DERG comparison. So you can see the two FTE categories listed, district administrators and school administrators. And Weston is in the first column. And we built in New Canaan, Darien, Wilton, Westport, Easton, and we put the state comparison there. This is that pie chart broken down with percentages for district administrators and school administrators. This is actually public data that's located on the EdSite website that we sort of aggregated here in a visually friendly manner. And so this chart compares the breakdown of the staffing with our DERG peers and the state expressed as percentages of a total FTE. And you can see across district administrators and school administrators, Weston's profile is pretty comparable with other districts and the state, and it's pretty balanced and proportionate in staffing relative to district and school administrators, but not excessive. The chart underneath is by assignment category. And instead of reflecting it in percentages, we actually gave you here the actual number that was publicly reported. So you can see all of the districts at the top: Weston, New Canaan, Darien, Wilton, Westport, and Easton. Underneath each district in parentheses, that is the total district enrollment as reported for each one of those districts. There's a line for district administrators, and in each column under each district, you can see the total number count. This is not a percentage, it's a number. So Weston at the district level reports 5 district administrators publicly to the state, New Canaan reports 6, Darien reports 8.2, Wilton 10, Westport 11, and Easton 2.3. Underneath, you can see school administrators, coordinators, and department chairs. Those are administrators at the school level. And you can see the number reported out for each one of the districts. What I also thought was important to show, just because we had the enrollment at the top, was the actual number of schools in each one of these districts. So you can see that third line from the bottom. The total number of certified staff reported publicly, and also each one of the district's accountability index. And you heard a little bit when Tina presented regarding our accountability index. And so the public data for district is categorized in these types of assignment categories. And the table really reflects a comparison of the number in each one of those categories, district and school-based, across various peer districts. And if you're just looking at it simply, you can see New Canaan has about double the amount of students, roughly, one more district administrator, and about double the amount of school administrators. So I'm going to keep moving on to also just another way to view it. And this is like a comparative of administration staffing ratios by district, and it's enrollment and adjusted. And so the blue line is the number of students per district administrator for each one of those districts. And the orange line is reflective of the students per school administrator. And you can see Weston, if you're looking at the blue line, is relatively in the middle of the pack alongside our DIRG peers, if not on the lower side. And for students per school administrator, if you're looking at the line, Weston is just right there trending at the bottom, along with our other districts. So when enrollments factor it into these staffing levels for administrators, I think you can see that it's fully aligned and more conservative in some cases than some of our peer districts. And I think the data shows us appropriate scale, not excess, and reflects sort of the fixed leadership and support structures we require here in Weston to operate our high-performing schools. And so I'll stop there if there's any questions, or we can keep moving on.
Board members have any questions? Right. Well, I think this is very helpful and comprehensive, so thanks for compiling it.
No problem. And now that you have a little bit of exposure to these graphs, Julia is going to pull up some additional FTE categories as we move forward. So I'm going to turn it back over to Julie.
Yes, so there was a follow-up question that was very similar and asked, could we look at the pie chart on staffing proportions, particular to the numbers for guidance counselors, psychologists, social workers, and students, other certified student support staff. So very similar to the charts that Erica just took us through, you're going to see essentially those exact formats, but with that broader group of assignment categories. So Dr. Hinkle, if you could go to the next slide. So this will look familiar. I am going to take just a moment to walk you through it again, just to reorient us. This is public data for the districts that are represented, and the data is categorized in assignment categories, as Erica noted. And the table reflects a comparison of the number of certified staff FTEs. This is the FTE chart in each assignment category across our peer districts. And I will note this is data from the 24-25 school year. Two important considerations in using this particular chart as a point of comparison. As Erica explained, the numbers that you see reflected under the name of each district is the total enrollment for that district. So it can be difficult to compare given the variance in the size of the districts, which is also notable when you look at on the bottom of the chart, the number of schools in those districts. So this particular chart, while it very clearly reflects the number of FTEs in our peer districts in each of these assignment categories, it's a tougher point of comparison because of the variance in the size of those districts. So I will just call attention to before we move on to that accountability index that you see across the bottom. And I do want to highlight Dr. Henkel's recent update regarding Connecticut's Next Generation Accountability Index and remind you that it measures school and district performance using 12 indicators across academic achievement, growth, chronic absenteeism, post-secondary readiness, graduation rates, physical fitness, and arts access. So that index really provides a holistic view of how our students are performing and preparing for their life beyond K-12 public schooling. And I will just tie that to our staffing because the staffing levels directly contribute to our students' readiness and success. So moving on to the next slide for perhaps a more ready point of comparison, we took the approach of using that data and adjusting it for enrollment. So similar to the chart that Erica showed you, the data here is presented as student to staff ratios. When enrollment is factored in, you can see very clearly in this student to staff ratio presentation that Weston staffing levels, particularly for school and district administrators and student support services, are fully aligned with, or in certain instances, more conservative than our peer districts. And this data really shows appropriate scale, not excess, and reflects the fixed leadership and support structures that are required to operate in a high-performing school district. As a different method of comparison, if we could go to the next slide. This again will look familiar. This chart compares the breakdown of the certified staffing with our DIRG A peers and the state, with each district expressing their percentage, expressing their data for each assignment category as a percentage of their total FTE. So you can see, again, Erica spoke about the percentages related to district and school administrators, but you can see across the board, Weston's certified staffing profile is comparable with peer districts and with state norms. And it's our assessment that the district is healthy in its supports in staffing, but not excessive. Moving on to a slightly different topic, there was a question that was asked related specifically to our health and PE staffing. And I will sort of set up the answer here, but Dr. Henkel, I know that you work really closely with our curriculum instruction leader in PE and health. And so if you have anything to add, please feel free. The question is, what do the different health and PE teachers do in middle school and high school? For example, why are there 3 total teachers in Weston Middle School rather than 2 or 1.7 as there are for Hess and WIS? So health and PE staffing at the different levels reflects a variety of priorities, including age-appropriate curricula, content area standards, and state mandates, as well as safety and supervision. The state of Connecticut requires that districts provide comprehensive health and safety education across K-12, including instruction in human growth and development, nutrition, disease prevention, physical, mental, and emotional health, substance abuse prevention, and safety education. And while there's no specific mandate as to a required number of instructional minutes for K-8, Weston's curriculum reflects a commitment to providing a comprehensive health education that is aligned to national health education standards and delivered in age-appropriate ways. And because of that, there's increased instructional time devoted to health instruction at Weston Middle School in comparison with the elementary schools. And particular to the high school, the Weston High School Program of Studies reflects a requirement that all graduates complete 1 credit in health and safety education before leaving Weston High School. The state also requires that districts provide planned sequential instruction in PE K through 12. And again, there's no specific mandate as to required instructional minutes for kindergarten through 8th grade, but districts are encouraged to plan for daily exercise for students, which is noted can be achieved both through PE classes and through recess. The balance of this physical exercise shifts more toward PE in the middle grades, which requires additional staff for appropriate and safe levels of instruction and supervision. In addition, physical fitness is evaluated through the Connecticut Physical Fitness Assessment in grades 4, 6, 8, and 10. Which is another component of our planning for the staffing profile. Finally, Weston High School requires that all students complete 1 credit in physical education and wellness prior to graduation. So you can see hopefully from this explanation that as students grow and work to achieve our portrait of the graduate competencies of caring for themselves and caring for others, their instructional needs in PE and health increase, which you see reflected in our staffing model. I don't know if there's anything anyone would like to add or any questions related to PE and health.
We have our principals on this evening too, so we encourage them to contribute to the conversation if you'd like to add, or you're very much welcome to.
Okay, I'm going to move on. The next question is specific to Weston High School, so thank you, Erica, for that. I am going to set it up broadly, but I am going to turn it over to Megan, our high school principal, because she's truly the architect of the staffing at the high school. But the question is this: what is the approach to building classroom FTE requests at Weston High School? How tight or flexible is the approach to projections? For example, many projected class sizes are under 20, and some of those are not singletons. In some cases, it appears that if the number of proposed sections were reduced, the resulting class size is still within guidelines. Was this done for programmatic reasons? So broad strokes, staffing at Weston High School is program-driven and aligned to graduation requirements and student needs. And because student course requests are not finalized until the spring, in fact, I believe they're just beginning the process of requesting courses for next school year in the coming days. The projections that you see in the budget book are developed really truly based on historical enrollment trends, current course data, and professional judgment, with the understanding that adjustments may need to be made once the actual course requests are confirmed later on in the spring. At this point, I do want to give Megan a chance to talk and to explain further. So Megan.
Thanks, Julie. So as Julie shared, we are just in the very early stages of building our schedules for next year. Teachers are completing their recommendations. Students will meet with their counselors. They will select the courses that they are requesting. That all wraps up around March 27th. That's the last date that students and counselors can make changes. Then, based on the student course requests, we make some determinations around sections and numbers. So when we make these projections, as Julie spoke to, it's based on not only the current courses that our students are in to try to make predictions about what those students will take next year, but we also take historical data to say over time, this is kind of what we've seen, regardless of what students may have taken the previous year. This is what we've kind of seen year after year. There are some, and I can give some examples, but there are some moments where, for example, we might see an honors humanities class. We typically run 3 sections. This year we ran 2. We wonder if next year we might run 3. So you might see where in English 9, we projected for 5, but it gives us some flexibility. So where we would say, okay, maybe we are running 3 of honors humanities next year, we may have an opportunity to reduce the size of the number of teachers teaching English 9, or there might be some flexibility too across like an English 9 standard class and the English 9 honors. So it really depends. There are also classes, which I know their question was about singletons or disregarding singletons, but I want to speak to that a little bit too, because there are certain courses which we offer that are specifically directed at the needs of students. So then we look at that programmatically, where we know that we want our students, all students, to take Algebra 1 and have an Algebra 1 experience. So as folks heard us speak to over the last couple of years, we've had some shifts in some of the math courses that we've offered. So you might see lower numbers as students are entering into their math progressions for some very specific courses like Algebra 1 linear equations. And next year, we're going to be offering integrated geometry and quadratics. So those are specific programmatic and course introductions that we've made to address specific needs of our student population. So we look at it programmatically. I always say, people ask me about budgets at the high school. I always say programs, and the overall needs of students. So we're also reflecting on our student data. And that was one of the reasons why we made some changes to our math sequencing as well. So it's very informed, and it continues to be informed throughout the spring as well. So I don't know if there are other questions that I can answer. I'll also add that sometimes you might see multiple sections, and you might look at the sections and say, you know, if there are 15 or 16 students in a class, maybe that's kind of our best guess and projections based on our current enrollment and where kids are going moving forward. We can only run, the recommended class sizes is 24. So if you split some of those classes, right, you'd have 31 kids wanting to take that course, which is why we split them and have some lower class numbers in those sections, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that it's really hard, and it's hard when you're small to offer program, to do sequencing correctly, to try to diversify your offerings. And so I also see the struggle and the to be efficient as well. So I know it's a balancing act, and I just wanted to poke at how complicated it is. And so, yeah, it's hard. So my hat's off to managing all that. You know, and as board members, we're also trying to look at the resources and just make sure that we're doing what we can in terms of efficiency without hurting kids. And so again, that's another balancing act. So
yes, just as a point of information, we have had to make decisions like this past year in particular. We made decisions to say, okay, maybe ninth graders don't have access to creative writing. We didn't have the number of sections based on our staffing to offer. So understanding that ninth graders would still have 3 more years to have access to some of those electives, that came into play in our art department as well, where we didn't have the staff to offer the electives that students wanted to take. So we really had to evaluate, you know, and offer those kind of to juniors and seniors first as their, time is running out to take those electives. And then from time to time, we also evaluate our overall enrollment and interest in courses. And I think I spoke to this earlier, but maybe not at these meetings, where we sometimes determine there are courses that we may be offering every other year rather than every year. You'll see that like our AP Music Theory, our AP Chemistry, some of our courses in our PLTW sequence. We've determined that we can offer those every other year and still make sure we give students enough notice so that they're aware and so that they can plan their sequence. And it allows us to keep those course numbers higher while still providing that rigorous curriculum and giving students access to the courses that they want and need to put their best foot forward in their post-secondary goals.
Right. And I think that's one example of efficiency, in terms of alternating courses. It looks also occasionally like you combine courses. I mean, not totally different courses, but there are places where it seems possible. Can you speak a little bit to that? And then I'll be quiet.
Sure. In some cases, rather than offering an advanced or an honors course separately and then creating two singleton classes, those singleton classes, that's when we really only have one section of the class to offer. That can add a constraint to student schedules. So oftentimes in world language, in art, trying to think, some in music, we will have students who are enrolled in a class during a single period, but within that class, we have students taking both the standard level and the honors level.
Got it. And then my last question is, when you're in like a math department or a science department, I'm just surmising that teachers need to be fairly flexible in terms of their teaching assignments. Like I know science sometimes has very specific, what do you call it? Certification.
Teachers have certain certification or endorsement areas. Yeah.
Right. So how hard is it, when you have science and you have a few more biology sections and physics sections, but this physics teacher can't necessarily teach biology. Am I correct?
It is a balancing act. That is for sure. So in science in particular, we have some have cross endorsements, some have more singular endorsements in a certain area of science. So we also have to keep that in mind. Who are the teachers that can teach an additional PLTW class, a project lead the way class, our engineering program, and who are the teachers that can teach physics, who can teach biology, who can teach chemistry, et cetera. So, and we also have teachers, if we offer our AP courses, we have teachers who have done the AP workshops, have been trained and educated in offering those AP classes. So they will go to that very significant training. And those are the teachers who we know are certified by College Board to teach those classes. And so we also have to ensure that those are the teachers then that we have in those AP classrooms. So there are a lot of moving parts at the high school level. And we did see also last year an increase of the number of 9th and 10th graders who were taking one or more free periods as well. And so again, we have student interest. I think it's important to note too, as opposed to the other grades in high school, you'll also have students who have a really significant interest in STEM. So they may be doubled up on their science. They might be taking a more traditional, what we would think of as a more traditional science class, and then they also want to take a coding class or something in the technology and engineering field. We have students who have a really deep passion in the humanities, so they're going to take their traditional English required class, and then they might also want to take a film studies or a creative writing. So it's not just about the number of students at the high school. It really comes down to what students' interests are, and making sure that we can have really a robust offering to support student interest.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to tag on to this discussion because there was a question that was very specific to Weston High School technology FTE, asking if it were possible for Weston High School tech ed teachers to be decreased from 1.2 FTE by decreasing the number of classes to 4 from 5 and just increasing class size. So while it is accurate that FTE is driven by the number of sections that are projected, as Megan explained, in order to preserve the course sequence, there were decisions that were made for this year and that are also anticipated for next year. Thank you, Dr. Hinkle. I did pull out the page from the budget book. It is the Weston High School staffing for technology is on page 3 of your budget book if you'd like to look at it yourself. In order to preserve that sequence of 4 Project Lead the Way, 4 distinct courses that are being offered at 2 levels. You see the standard level on the left side of that blue chart, and also those courses are offered at the honors level. So the staffing that you see reflected in our current staffing and also projected for next year reflects a commitment to continuing that sequence of courses, but also reflects what Megan was discussing, where you can see on the left side of the chart, for example, for civil engineering and architecture, there are 31 students that are enrolled in the standard or honors level of that course, and 31 is beyond our class size guidelines and also truly beyond what would be recommended for Project Lead the Way, which is an engineering course sequence and requires really hands-on type work. So that splitting that into 2 what are small sections is really important in order to adhere to our class size guidelines, to appropriately deliver the curriculum and content with the resources that we have, and also to honor the course sequence. So it is projected at this point to continue still with the 6 sections that you see that are running this year, although you note the shifts in where those numbers are, anticipating what the next level in the sequence will be for the students that are taking this series of courses. And noting again that when the actual course requests come in, Megan and her team will review those really carefully to assess whether the projections are accurate, and this is truly the best assessment of the staffing needs. So that is the end of the staffing questions. Are there any other questions from the board related to the questions we've addressed this evening?
Not for me. Lisa, Sharon? Okay, Nicole? Okay. All right. Did that finish the staffing section? Okay. And that's what you had planned for tonight, am I right, or?
That's correct. Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, thank you very much again. You know, again, as board members, we're trying to look at resource levels and resource efficiency. And so that's why so many questions and, you know, just needing to make sure we fully understand your needs and your constraints and the parameters you work within. So thank you. Okay, so move along. There'll be a budget forum on Thursday night, and then there's one workshop on Monday morning, and then as a board next week at one or the other of the meetings, the 27th and the 29th, we will need to vote on this budget. So as board members, we need to start reaching conclusions for our discussion at our we will follow the forum on Thursday night, depending on time, with the discussion, and we'll certainly just continue the discussion at our workshop on, I think it's Monday morning. Anyway, at that point, we as board members need to start making some judgments and some conclusions and recommendations. So if you did have any last minute questions, we're quickly running out of time, so I encourage us to ask before we so you make sure you have enough information to make your conclusions and in our discussions. All right, I think we're ready for district updates. Leading off with superintendent.
I do not have an update this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Pupil personnel.
Hi, everyone. Brief update for tonight. It's that time of year when we start planning and preparing for extended school year, our ESY programming, and transitions for our students between buildings. Both of those processes are really led by our assistant directors of PPS and require a tremendous amount of collaboration among staff, students, and families. And I just am very appreciative of the time and energy that everyone invests in that process, and in supporting our students at these very critical points in their educational journeys. We also convened the SEL working group last Friday. You would be hard pressed to find a more enthusiastic and thoughtful group of people. We've established an immediate focus for our work, which is really to streamline and align SEL practices district-wide, especially between Hurlbut and the intermediate school and the middle school and high school. The team has also spent time reflecting on our SEL priorities, how to best support staff in this work, and how to ground social emotional learning in intellectual habits. I just want to be transparent that this committee's work will be ongoing well beyond the scope of this school year, given the many layers of this work and the importance of social emotional learning in supporting the well-being of all students. Thanks.
Thank you. Finance and operations. Bill.
Good evening, everyone. The major highlight for this month is that Doug took a deep dive into our accounts, and we were able to identify some savings for the fiscal 27, reducing our deficit by approximately $270,000. So as of today, we currently have a deficit of $80,672. The deficit, we were able to reduce the deficit by savings in salaries of approximately $183,000. There is some savings in the special ed department of approximately $156,000. We're accounting for the karma equity distribution of $18,000, and we have a negative for health insurance, which is primarily driven by change in our enrollment for retirees. So all in all, we're on track to mitigate the full budget, hopefully by the end of the year, providing that there aren't any additional or new surprises for the remainder of the year.
Thank you. And this was discussed in more detail in our finance and operations subcommittee. So Phil, we know some of the ins and outs, and thank you for your work. Is this the point you want the financial report approved at this point?
It is, yes.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion? Lisa, just could you unmute? Sorry.
Mute, unmute, mute, unmute.
I know,
Okay.
sorry.
I make a motion to approve the December 2025 financial report.
I second.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Approved. On to committee updates. Communications Committee.
David is not here. He's the chair.
Okay.
So we can, Nicole and I could probably share with the rest of the board. I'll hop in here, Nicole. If I missed anything, please fill it in. Basically, our last communication committee meeting, we talked about how we feel it's best to communicate what is happening as far as our facilities conversations is concerned with the town, to make sure that our voters for a referendum would be completely informed all along the way. So we basically talked a little bit about how best to present it, to make sure that is in line with what the administration sends out, but at the same time has its own kind of headline or its own feel, so that the public understands what it is that we are trying to communicate with them about, what specific project we're trying to communicate with them about. In addition to that, we also talked a lot about the website and how to make it as easy as possible to navigate for users looking for the information specifically about our facilities, which is a big discussion to make sure that as we make the facilities discussion, or make the facilities information prominent, we're not doing anything that would jeopardize the usability and the information availability on the site that's used on a regular basis for most people. So I hope that made sense. I don't know. Rambling a little bit now. Dan, if you have anything you want to add, or Nicole, if you have anything you want to add, that was the majority of what I recall.
Also that we rebranded facility. It's now called Campus Revitalization on the website. And so on the homepage of the website, there is a shortcut to the campus revitalization section where members of the community can access all of the previous documents and meetings relating to this topic.
Yes, so officially it is called the Campus Revitalization. So as we talk about it in the community with people, that's kind of what we'll be referring to it as.
Okay, when we do agendas, I'll need to take that new title into account.
That's right.
Also want to thank the Communications Committee and Nicole specifically. I know you worked hard on drafting the bricks and mortar newsletter that went out. So thank you for your work on that. It was clear and concise and also comprehensive. So thank you. And as we go down the road and get into, as we do our work, well, when we get to the EOC committee, I'll talk about that a little bit. Curriculum committee.
It was really, Tina did a great job presenting some things that were very helpful for understanding the budget. Tina, do you want to sum it up?
Sure. Thanks, Lisa. We had a really robust curriculum subcommittee meeting. First, I want to thank you all for approving the overnight field trip for our Model UN club, who is going to Harvard to visit the Model UN Nations Conference at Harvard. They're hosted by Harvard this year, so they're really excited about that. 2 curriculum updates was regarding the No Place for Hate update. Shout out to Principal Bluestein, his staff, and the students that are leading that work. It's an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing design to really engage students in some of the work around ADL that ADL has provided around identity and exercises to deepen their self-awareness and empathy within that program. So kudos to them. Also, Shauna Johnson, who is our CIL for our social studies at the secondary level, provided us with an update on the Holocaust Remembrance Day, which is coming up next week. She has coordinated a series of lessons and guest speakers at the middle school and the high school. And then finally, Dan and I presented an update to the committee regarding the AI Advisory Committee and the work that we've been doing with them to evaluate current AI tools that we are investigating to determine and recommend to the district as we move into budget season regarding which one of our AI tools we want to actually invest in over time, which is our goal is to have that tool identified for the upcoming school year. That's it.
Okay, thank you. On the Educational Optimization Committee, we talked about the campus revitalization. Did I get the term right? And we talked about the gathering of information, and we're ending that sort of phase, if you will, of our work. Looking forward to the SLAM Phase 2 presentation. And again, hoping to use that February 23rd date. I just need to double confirm that. And also looking forward to a discussion on feedback from the administration on some of the grade configuration questions and the magnet school question. And then we talked about, needing to, as a board, again, start coming up with some specific ideas and proposals, and also how best to involve the town government. And also, just as importantly, how to involve the parents and the community members. And then we sort of tooled around with some ideas that might sort of overlap with the communications committee, how best to hold, what kind of meetings, what to do with our website, et cetera. So we're largely focused on campus revitalization. Policy committee. We saw a lot of your work tonight, but go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm trying to recall here. We basically everything you had for a first read was what we discussed in committee. There were, I'm trying to think going back here, were there any sticking points that you can remember aside from Tracy obviously got the answers for us about the publicized policies? Trying to think, is there anything else I'm missing, Erica?
Just the questions on the AED policies.
Yep.
And then I'm preparing a chunk of policy from the 6,000 series for the upcoming policy committee, which may appear then on the, maybe not the February 2nd board meeting, but one thereafter.
So we have a tremendous number of policies, and I guess it's important for everyone to understand what we're trying to do right now is we are trying to go through the policies and make sure that everything is current, and that things that are not necessary, i.e. the beeper policy, can be omitted from the policy book. But at the same time, there are a lot of policies that haven't been reviewed since the 80s. And so we are just making sure that we go through and make any updates that need to be made. And if no updates need to be made, we just need to say that it's been revisited so that the policy book is up to date. So that's where all of this is coming in right now. And Erica, thank you for bringing so much of that to us. It's been, you've been wonderful in bringing a lot of it to our attention. So thank you.
Sharon, you might want to add that some of the policy updates that you're doing are state mandates. So
Absolutely.
You're updating it because the state mandates that we do that. Just to add that.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Safety and Security Committee, I'm not sure the schedule.
We didn't meet. It's actually going to turn into every other month meeting. So we'll be meeting in.
Okay, got it. Organizational updates, CAVE. Lisa, I don't know if there's anything new.
There was a superintendent meeting, a superintendent and Board of Ed meeting in Westport. And they bring up some of the mandates. What was, I think, on the agenda and what I read was the healthcare costs are an issue across many of the districts, and the mandated special ed unfinanced issues for the schools.
Right.
You
Sharon
want
and
to
I
add
were,
because you were there.
yeah, Sharon and I were able to go, and our representative, Ann Hughes, was also there. Representatives from other areas as well, and several superintendents. But you're right, healthcare costs was a major focus. And then some of the state mandates or state ideas, especially directed at school lunch programs, breakfast programs, dealing with, quite frankly, hungry children, and how best to address those needs. I did put in a question about reimbursement for campus revitalization projects. And I think people were, certainly to some extent understanding. And we had a couple of conversations with legislators offline. So, hopefully we will garner some support. Okay, what's next? CES. I think that's David, and he's not here. Weston Education Foundation. I don't.
So that's me. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting because it conflicted with one of our budget workshops.
Oh,
But as you
sure.
can see, they made some gifts available to us based upon what we passed tonight.
Yeah, yeah, great organization.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you see the next scheduled meetings and all right, and then you can see we were right in the thick of budget, so that's got to be our focus. So is there a move to adjourn?
I so move.
Second?
I
Second.
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all your work in presenting tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes,
Good.
thank
See
you.
you
Thank you.
soon.